G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. So as an artist using Instagram, why should I use hashtags and how should I use hashtags? These are really important questions and I have seen so much information saying so many even contradictory things. And because Instagram's algorithm is continually being changed in response to a changing wider context for the operation of the platform, even something that was necessarily true about using hashtags 2 years ago may not be helpful now. Let me say up front, what I'm sharing now in this video comes from my experience of using hashtags on Instagram at least every day for the past 3.5 years, but on many days using them for multiple posts. So it is my experience, and I will share some of my stats, some of my analytics, and some of the conclusions that I've drawn from my use of them. And although there have been times when things seem to have been changing when I haven't been as sure about how exactly they're operating, the one thing I've never doubted is that it has been worth persevering in using them. So let's start. Why, as an artist, should I use hashtags? And the answer is as simple as because it will help my posts connect with people who may enjoy my posts and want to look at them and even follow me. And as an artist, I want to do that. And there are two main ways, as I understand it, that using hashtags can help people who don't yet know me or my art connect with my art. The first way is this. Hashtags can become like an index in the back of a book. It's a searchable term that someone who is interested in a certain type of art can look for using the Instagram search function and therefore may find me if that hashtag is linked in some way to my work. For instance, when I switched from drawing in pencil to drawing in pen and ink, I stopped using all my hashtags which had the word pencil or graphite in them, and I found new ones that had the word pen or ink in them, because I was trying to reach a new audience of people who wouldn't have wanted to have looked at my pencil drawings, but who would be interested in looking at my pen and ink drawings. So hashtags are a way that I can connect my artwork with people who might be interested in it and actively looking for content to consume. Not just can people look up hashtags that they're interested in, but just as I can follow individual accounts on Instagram, I can actually follow hashtags. So I could follow hashtag pen and ink drawing, and the algorithm would in my feed show me samples from that hashtag in the same way it shows me samples from the accounts of the people whose work I follow. Well, all of that is a pretty good reason to use hashtags. There is a second reason as well, and it's this. Hashtags also inform the algorithm in greater detail what my post is about. See, the algorithm can't look at my drawing and go, yes, this is a very nice drawing of the Musée du Louvre. And I know that Joe in Brisbane, he's been looking at a lot of really nice views of the Musée du Louvre lately, so I think he'll like this one. The hashtag can't operate on that visual basis, but it can read Musée du Louvre. And if it knows that Joe in Brisbane, which is about 1,000 kilometres from here, so I don't know Joe, if it knows that from other things Joe has looked at and engaged with, that he's interested in posts connected with the Musée du Louvre, the algorithm may just take my post and show it to him on his feed. So hashtags give the algorithm a chance to understand what our artwork is in a way that it can understand and in a way where it can build it into its distribution methodology. Because despite what people often seem to think, that the algorithm is this enemy that's against them, that they've got to learn to hack, that somehow we have to learn to break down the walls of the algorithm so it stops being against us. The algorithm really doesn't care about my work. It's not an art critic. It doesn't judge the value of the work. The algorithm is only interested in how long do people stay on Instagram, because the longer people stay on Instagram, the more money Instagram will make through ads. And so Instagram wants to show people posts that they will want to look at and that they will spend more time looking at, which is why videos are so favored these days, because we might look at a post in 3 seconds, but we might watch all of a 15 or 30-second reel that we're interested in. the algorithm never has and never will be favoring the person making the post. It's favoring the person receiving the post. It wants to give them something they will really enjoy to look at and want to engage with. And so providing hashtags enables this to happen more easily and more directly. And once I understand this, I can see that the algorithm isn't my enemy to be attacked, but is a tool that I can either choose to work with to put my posts in front of more people than who currently see it now, or not. I'm always free to do what I like. But if I want to see my Instagram account grow for whatever reason, then I need to get my posts seen by people who have never seen them or heard of me before. And the hashtags are a great way to do this. So that's the why. So if using hashtags is a good idea, then how should we go about using them? So if using hashtags is a good idea, then how do we use them? And I want to start this by giving my perspective and my experience on two matters that I have seen endlessly talked about, and my experience has been the exact opposite. The first is how many hashtags should we use? Now, Instagram lets you use 30, but over and over again on videos I have seen the advice being given, although you can use 30, don't. That if you use too many, it will actually count against you. When I first started my account, and I was just posting paintings of Australian trees and flowers such as this one here, I would use between 10 and 15 hashtags. But that was only because I couldn't think up anymore. And I didn't realize that I could actually use the Instagram app to find more myself. I'll show you how in a few minutes. But that was the only reason I didn't use 30, because I couldn't think of 30. But since I started doing my architectural drawings, I have used the full 30 every single post. And far from being penalized by doing that, my analytics tell me that my hashtags are an important part of reaching new people. And I have posted at least once, but often more times, every day for the last 3.5 years. So my advice is to use the full 30 hashtags. The only proviso is only use them if they're relevant. And possibly the recent Instagram advice of some months ago that suggested a lesser amount is because most people don't use strictly relevant hashtags. Because if you use hashtags that are popular but not relevant, it will put your work in front of people who aren't really interested in it. And then they will just flick it away quickly, and the algorithm will say, oh, people don't like this person's work, when in fact it was just shown to the wrong person because you've used the wrong hashtag. I would never dream of using less than 30. It's worked really well for me. The second point that my experience strongly disagrees with is that I've heard it said over and over again, do not use the same hashtags. Once you've spent 6 months or a year, as I did, typing out 30 hashtags once a day, every day, at some point you get clever and you start to make a list in your phone notes section so you can just cut and paste. Once you start doing that though, it's a strong possibility that your hashtags are going to start to be the same every post. And one way around this is to have maybe 10 groups of 5 relevant hashtags and to mix and match these groups of 5 so that the list is never the same. That's quite common advice. Sadly, I am not a very organized person and I am never going to do that. I, in the end, had several lists of 30, but what I found was that one list seemed to be doing better than the others, and every time I did a post, I wanted to use the best list, and in the end, I just kept using that list. And while it has changed a little bit by bit over the 3.5 years, for the most recent complete month, which is February 2022, I have made 49 posts on Instagram. For 38 of them, I have cut and pasted exactly the same list of hashtags from my phone notes into the comment of the post. So 38 out of 49, virtually 80%, have been exactly the same list. Of the 11 posts where I didn't do this, 8 of them were reels, and I actually have a different set of hashtags that I post to reels that include tags such as reels and reels of Instagram, but the same list 8 times for reels. One post that was different was because it had some watercolors of architectural scenes on it, and so I had some watercolor hashtags included. So of the 49 posts in February, there were only 2 where I could have used the same lists that I used for 38 of them, but didn't. And because I didn't, I paid attention to how much traction I was getting with hashtags in my analytics. And both times it was not as good. And so the next night I thought, I want to use the list that gives me better results. That's my experience. Now it is helpful to review the list for all sorts of reasons, because there may be better tags to use. But in my experience, once I've found a group of tags which work well, and I'll talk in a moment about how you know if they're working well, I have found personally no penalty from Instagram in just using that list over and over again. And in that time, I have gone for months and months, if not years, where I post the hashtags as the first comment. And for the last 6 months, I've gone back to posting it as part of the description that's included with the post. And I have found no difference at all which way it goes. I'm swimming against the tide there, but that's my experience. Use the full 30 all the time. As long as they're relevant, there's no problem. And I have found no penalty by using the same list over and over and over again, dozens and dozens and dozens of times in a row. So how do we find relevant hashtags? Relevant hashtags are hashtags that describe characteristics of our artwork, that if people are looking for those characteristics, there's a chance they'll enjoy our artwork. Probably the most important tags to use are the hashtags connected with the medium that we're using to produce our artworks. Pencil, graphite, coloured pencil, fountain pen, fine liner, sketch marker, charcoal. If we want to give advertisements to people, we can use brand names of the products that we use, because some people are particularly interested in seeing what can be produced by a certain brand of art supply. We might use descriptors such as abstract or realistic or real life or traditional. We might use words that describe the subjects: portraits, life drawing, architecture, urban sketching, botanical drawings. There are other describing words we can use: quick drawing, rough drawing, rapid drawing, drawing without pencil, daily drawing, drawing every day, sketch a day. And always think of synonyms. So with drawing, drawing and sketch are 2 words that mean basically the same thing. And one of those 2 words may suit the sort of tags we should use better than the other. Generally, the drawing tags have higher usage than the sketching tags. But there are reasons why we might want to use the sketching tags that we'll look at shortly. And finally, in terms of what tags, there are foreign language tags. So if you're like me and English is your mother tongue, I mustn't forget that for many people using Instagram, Spanish is their mother tongue, or Chinese is their mother tongue, or Russian is their mother tongue, or German, or French, or Portuguese, or Italian, or Arabic, or Persian are their mother tongues. So if I can include tags in these languages, then I have a way of reaching people who may love my art, but who don't happen to speak English. I went through a period early on where I used a lot of tags, and I noticed how, if I looked at the names of my followers, they were often from the countries whose language I was using at that point in time. And it's easy enough with Google Translate to find out what those words are. The other thing in deciding what tags to use is we have to realize that not all tags are equal. Instagram ranks tags by how many people have used them. If we take the word drawing, which is a great tag for someone who does drawing such as myself, but if I look up that tag on Instagram, I can see that it's being used 260 million times. Now that's great, because that means there's a lot of people interested in that tag, and it's a very common word that people would think of to look up. But sadly, it also tells me that it's a tag with a lot of competition, that a lot of people are using that tag constantly, and that my use of it, unless the algorithm finds great favor with my post, will be quickly buried by more people using the tag after me. Because we can search hashtags, and if we search a hashtag, it will show us, for most tags, a reel and 9 posts. And that's where we want our post to appear, so that when people look at that hashtag's page, they see our post without scrolling further. Or at worst, we're in the first scroll. With a post that has 260 million uses, that's highly competitive. But a very helpful thing to do, to use hashtags whose usage is in proportion to the size of your account. So if I'm just starting out and my account doesn't have much recognition with the algorithm or with the public, then I'm better off using tags with quite small usage because there's more chance that I will appear in them. And I will do better appearing in the top posts of drawings of buildings that might only have 1,000 followers, but they all probably really like drawings of buildings, than to use the hashtag drawings and have my post swamped with several new posts coming in every second, and where most of the people interested in the drawing tag aren't even interested in drawings of architecture. Maybe they all love anime. So it's getting that balance. And advice I have seen, and I think this is good advice, is that once you've worked out the tags that you potentially can use, divide them into 3 groups: lower usage, middle usage, and higher usage. And when my account was just a few thousand followers, and once I understood how hashtags worked, I didn't try to use tags that had greater than a few 100,000 usages. But as my account grew, that upper limit moved up, and the minimum number of usages that I would consider moved up too. We have 30 tags. We can always use a couple to shoot for the stars. And I have usually done that as well, because we may just get lucky. So let me show you now, with a bit of screen capturing, how you can actually find more tags than you can think of yourself. If we go to our Explore page and look up the top, there's a search bar there. So we can type various things in there. If we type in drawing, these results come up, and we go to the drawing hashtag. But along the top, we can see that there are various options, and we want to go to the tags option. This now shows us a whole range of options that are connected with drawing hashtags, and we can see that drawing has 258 million posts, but drawing Barcelona is much less competitive at 1.4 thousand. If we scroll down here, we see many more options of hashtags that involve the word draw or drawing. And this is a great way to discover hashtags, but also importantly to see how competitive they each are. And we can write down various options into a list. And of course, we can repeat this for sketch, for pen, for any more general hashtag word, and see a very wide range of possibilities based on that word. If I select any of these hashtags, I will go to that hashtags page, and I'll get to see what sort of posts are on it, and I can work out how competitive mine will be. And for each of those posts, I have an option of seeing the top posts according to the algorithm, but also the most recent posts where they're in chronological order. And that may be a more competitive place for me to appear. So that's how I can find hashtags and discover how competitive they are and work out the best ones for me to use for my account. But how do I know whether I'm achieving anything with the hashtags I use? So now we're going to look at some individual hashtags. So here we are on my home page. So from here, we'll look at my most recent post. And we'll scroll down to look at the hashtags. And now I'll select the first hashtag, which is drawing artists. And this is the smallest tag I've used at 37,000 uses. And if we look at these top posts, my picture doesn't appear here. We also have the option of looking at the most recent posts. So we go there, and when we find my post, it tells me this is how many posts have been posted to this tag since I posted. So it gives me a sense of the competition. So we go back and we'll look at another hashtag. So looking at dibujando, which is a Spanish word for drawing, with 1 million usages. So I'm not in the top post here. And we'll scroll down the most recent to see how far we have to go to get to mine. And this gives an idea of how much more competitive, because we haven't yet reached my post. Still scrolling, still scrolling. And there we have it. for the same time period as drawing artists. The other way we can discover how useful our hashtags are is to use our Instagram analytics. Now, to have access to analytics, you need to either have a business account or a creator's account. So if you haven't done this, it's worth changing your account just to access the analytics, because they really do give very helpful information to use in growing our accounts. So we go back to my profile page and we select a post. We scroll down beneath the post and we select Insights. And that shows me how much engagement I've had with likes and shares and so forth. And then we come down to reach. I find out how many accounts this post has reached. And then below that, I get to see in more detail. And I can see that the hashtags enabled me to reach 3,181 impressions, which I wouldn't have had otherwise. So we go back to another post, and this one is some Montmartre stairs, a very popular drawing. So again, we scroll down to the Insights. We select Insights. We see the engagement. This is a very high engagement for me. We go down looking at the accounts reached, and then we come to the impressions, and we see that of 129,000 impressions, just over 8,000 have been due to hashtags. And although that's not nearly as many as through Explore, it's still a good number that I think it's worth cutting and pasting 30 hashtags to get. And so we'll go back for one more post. Again, another popular drawing of mine, some stairs in Montmartre in winter. And we again scroll to the Insights. We see the engagement. We scroll down more, we see the number of accounts reached, and we can see how many of them were from people who weren't following me. And the hashtags here have led to 5,733 impressions. Again, it's less than Home and Explore, but it's still a very worthwhile number. Well, how was that? If you're still with me after all this time, well done. I hope it's helpful. I hope it's useful. I feel like these days many people have just become exhausted with hashtags and really just don't want to be bothered with them. It's so confusing and there's so much contrary information. I hope this video, based on my experience, gives you some direction. And it is experience based on about 1,500 days of consecutive posting and using of hashtags. If it's useful, that's great. If it's not, don't give it a moment's thought. The important thing is that we keep drawing and we have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.